Growing up in Ethiopia, I had a relatively comfortable life. I did not fetch water. I did not walk miles to school. I had a toilet at home. It wasn't luxurious, but it was comfortable, it was private. I never thought about it. Until I moved back to Ethiopia in my early 20s after studying in the US. That's when everything changed. As I traveled throughout the country, I realized there were no toilets, not just in rural villages, but alongside highways, schools, markets. I started planning my entire day around access, carrying tissue, avoiding long trips, and rationing my water intake just to delay the need. My body was no longer free. And I'm not alone. Globally, 1 in 3 people lack access to basic sanitation. Women spend over 98 billion hours every year just looking for a safe place to relieve themselves. Probably barefoot, in the rain, dodging shame and harassment. That's not nature. That's a system. A system built not considering women. This is not just a sanitation issue. This is a feminist issue. When lack of access to a toilet determines a girl's future, her safety, her autonomy, we're talking about gender and power. So I tried to do something about it. I launched a social impact business. We hired women from vulnerable communities to maintain the cleanliness of toilets in the capital. We sold advertising spaces on the restroom walls. Jobs were created, toilets were clean, revenue came in. But in Ethiopia, toilet talk is taboo. Seen as something dirty and shameful, brands did not want to associate their logos with toilet. So the business failed. That failure taught me something deeper. That the problem was not just about sanitation, water, or plumbing. It was about the mindset. How we think about toilet, talk about toilet, or avoid it altogether. Cleanliness, I realized, is political. So I shifted my approach. I launched Jegnit, a movement to remove obstacles for women and girls. Jegnit means brave woman. Our motto is, she envisions, she plans, and she executes. As part of the movement, our first campaign was advocating for the removal of tax on sanitary pads. We also remodeled school toilets, making them female-friendly, accessible, and safe. We designed a dignity kit that has sanitary napkins, reusable, to keep girls in school for up to 2 years. You may ask why. According to PSI and UNICEF, girls miss up to 100 days of school every year due to lack of toilet and menstrual hygiene. UNESCO confirms once a girl hit puberty, she's far more likely to drop out if her school lacks toilet. Now, imagine what that dropout leads to. Early marriage, domestic servitude, migration to the Middle East as a domestic worker, sometimes with no legal protection, trapped in a cycle of invisibility and exploitation, just because she did not have a toilet. Let's pause here. This is not just a sanitation issue. Toilets are about voice, about presence, about power, about dignity and access. Yet when we talk about feminism, toilets rarely come up. How can something that determines a girl's future, her autonomy, not be a feminist issue? To answer this very question, I spent over a year conducting a research, a phenomenological exploration of women's lived toileting experiences as part of my PhD dissertation. What I found was both devastating and illuminating. One participant told me that she avoided drinking water at school just to escape the shame of using a toilet with a missing door. Now imagine, you are 12 years old. Your body is changing. The only toilet at school has no door. So, you hold it in. You sit in silence. You disappear into yourself. You learn early that your body is a burden. The immediate result is dehydration. The long-term effect is urinary tract infection, kidney disease, and diminished participation in class. Another participant told me that her mother never told her about periods, never talked about toilets. She inherited silence. Generation after generation, the need stays, but the words vanish. That's why I created a framework called Feminist Sanitation Justice. Because we can build all the toilet we want in the world, but if we do not address privacy, shame, and safety, nothing will change. Infrastructure alone won't liberate her body. We need systems rooted in her lived reality. If we want to reach the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 6, which is access to water and sanitation for all, we have to start with the missing door. With what happens when she whispers her need and no one listens. To what it means to live in a body that is always adjusting, always waiting for permission. So, what do? We reimagine WASH, water, sanitation, and hygiene. Not just as a technical field of pipes and blue logos, but as a feminist frontier. We center her body. We listen to her stories. We build from the inside out. And that takes courage. Because making sanitation a feminist issue, that's disruptive. Because toilets are not just about plumbing. They're not just about water. They're about voice, presence, access, and power. If we want a world where every girl stays in school, raises her hands, and shapes her future, we have to start with one simple, inconvenient, yet urgent question. Where does she go when she gotta go?